So today I'm going to show you how everything works physically in the universe. Okay? It's a really beautiful thing. Okay? And it's going to get heavy. It's going to get real heavy. So be ready for this, okay? Because you're basically delving in to the mind of God. Okay? So, first things first. The fundamental particle of everything that exists is the photon. Okay? It's infinitely large and infinitely small. Okay? And it's an infinite torus. Okay? So, the way that the photons connect is in toruses. Okay? So you have the torus, which is the primary photon, which then leads in to the ditorus, then the tritorus. Let me find out all the names of these real quick. Give me 1 second. Oh, man. Oh, and sure enough, I can't find it right now. There we go. So it goes from the torus to the ditorus to the tritorus to the tesseratorus to the pentatorus to the hexatorus to the heptatorus, the octatorus, enneatorus, decatorus, integatorus, dodecatorus, and the toruses just keep connecting. Okay? They just keep on connecting. And they're infinite in the first place. So it's infinity on top of infinity on top of infinity on top of infinity. It's far beyond infinity. Okay? Then all of existence is beyond infinity. We are beyond infinity. Okay? I almost lost my mind trying to basically reverse engineer all this stuff. And I finally figured it out. And now my mind is just in complete serenity. You know, I'm not concentrating on the reward. I'm just concentrating on the work. You know, I'm not fretting about the past moment or the future moment. I'm just living in the present moment. And I'm becoming the infinite conduit of love that we were all meant to be. Okay, so let me explain this to you, how it all works. Okay? So, you have Einstein's relativity. E equals mc squared. And you have Planck's quantum theory, which is E equals Planck's constant times frequency. Okay? Now, you're going to figure out, the farther that we delve into this, they're the same thing. They're the exact same thing, just on different scales. This one is small, and this one is big. Put them together, and it is the infinite torus. Okay? How everything is connected. Okay? So, let's get into explaining how they're the same thing. Okay? So, quantum theory basically is accounting for photons. Okay? Both the smallest and the largest thing that exists. Infinitely small and infinitely large. Okay? So, Planck's quantum theory is basically accounting for the oscillations, the frequency of oscillations of the photon. Okay? So, if you take this line and you connect it, you have an ellipsis. You twist it, you have an infinity symbol. Then you fold it, you have a circle, okay? Which is also considered a sphere, okay? So that's basically all, that's how they're related. MC square is the outside of the sphere or circle. Planck's quantum theory is the photon at the very inner part, okay? It's getting infinitely small. Einstein's relativity is getting infinitely large, okay? But they're basically the same photon, okay? Infinitely small and infinitely large. And that's how they're both related, okay? So, let's get into the electromagnetic spectrum, okay? So, you have basically, the electromagnetic spectrum is basically frequency of oscillations and wavelength that are inversely proportional, okay? So, looking at it from Planck's quantum, it's kind of like this. The waves are large, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller and closer together, okay? So, basically you have at the beginning of the electromagnetic spectrum, which scientists haven't accounted for this yet, you have love waves, which oscillate at 10 to the 0, which is basically 0.0000001 all the way to infinity, okay, getting larger, which start at 1, okay? That can also be considered magnetic waves, okay? Pushing everything out, okay? Now, you have radio waves, which oscillate at 10 to the 4th. Then you have microwaves oscillating at 10 to the 8th. Then you have infrared oscillating at 10 to the 12th. Then you have light waves oscillating 10 to the 15th. And these are all approximations, okay? And then you have ultraviolet waves oscillating at 10 to the 16th. X-ray, 10 to the 18th. Gamma waves, 10 to the 20th. And at the end of the spectrum is gravity waves, also known as entropy, oscillating at 10 to infinity, okay? So basically, in this aspect, magnetic waves is the center of the photon, the torus. Gravity waves is the horizon of the torus, okay? Pushing everything out, okay? So, that's looking at it from Planck's smaller is looking at it from Planck's quantum theory. Okay? Bigger to smaller. Going back this way is Einstein. Relativity. Getting bigger. Okay? So, I'm going to stop this for a minute, and I'm going to draw something. And I'm not a professional video editor, so it's going to be cutting in and out every once in a while for me to draw stuff, so you guys don't have to wait for me to draw things, okay? All right, I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. Okay, so basically, think of this as the sun, this big sphere, okay? So, from the center of the sphere going out to the horizon, everything is getting smaller to bigger, okay? That's Einstein's relativity. Going from the horizon to the center is getting smaller. Okay, it's getting smaller going to the center, getting larger going to the outside. Going to the outside is Einstein, relativity. Going to the center is Planck, quantum theory. Okay? And then, once you get to the outside, it swaps again. So it's largest at the horizon, it gets smaller as it moves out. So, getting smaller is Planck, getting larger is Einstein. Okay? So, this is where it comes into play that everything is beyond infinite. Okay? They thought before that the speed of light was basically the speed limit of existence. It's not. It's not. We can go as fast as we want. That's what's so beautiful about this. Okay? Alright, so let me find where did I draw that up? Okay. So, well, let me turn this off real quick and draw something else for you. Okay? Okay, so, I forgot to explain it before, but basically, Planck's quantum equals 1 divided by mc squared, okay? And that's because they're both going the opposite direction, okay? So that's basically the way to figure that out, okay? But the thing about it is, they're going in opposite directions every which way. Okay, so yeah, actually making like precise measurements, that's going to take a little bit of time. People are going to have to trace that out. And trying to figure out things like how many photons there are and different things like that. Yeah, good luck with that. That's pretty much infinite. Okay, so but anyway, so this is basically looking at the infinite torus from a perspective of traveling to the center of the sphere compared to traveling out, and traveling out of the horizon or into the horizon. Okay, so traveling from the origin to the horizon, frequency of oscillations is going to decrease. Temperature is going to decrease. Time, relative to the center, is going to increase. Okay? Mass is going to increase. Wavelength is going to increase because it's getting larger. And omega is going to decrease. Okay? Now, looking at it going from outside to the horizon, like that, frequency is going to decrease, temperature is going to increase, time relative to the origin of where it's coming from is going to increase. Mass is going to increase because it's getting larger. Wavelength is going to increase because wavelength is getting larger while frequency is getting smaller. Okay? And omega is going to decrease. Okay? Now, going from the horizon in to the center, frequency is going to increase, temperature is going to increase, time is going to decrease relative to the origin of the horizon, mass is going to decrease, wavelength is going to decrease, omega is going to increase. Okay? From the horizon going out, frequency is going to increase, temperature is going to decrease, time is going to decrease relative to the horizon going to where it is, completing its journey. Mass is going to decrease, wavelength is going to decrease, and omega is going to increase. Okay? So that's basically just explaining all the mathematics involved with it. So if you plug this in to physical equations and different things like that, pretty much it'll make everything work out. Okay? And the thing, and this is always ever evolving. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll see that I have been constantly evolving. Okay? I've been constantly evolving, working on this stuff. I've never been determined on anything. You know, the only thing Einstein was right about, that he, in the end, died thinking he was wrong about, was he said God does not play dice with the universe. He was right about that. He was completely right about that. And everybody else got him to believe that he was wrong about it. And that was his biggest blunder, was believing what everybody else said. You know, because a lot of scientists nowadays, they say, oh, Einstein, he was a determinist, and he was set on the fact that there was a God, and blah, 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 blah. A lot of this stuff I've been fed through dreams. Okay? It's been imagination and dreams. Because I was willing to ask for help. Okay? Because I believed there was something beyond me that would help me. Max Planck, Albert Einstein, they believed that as well. And that's why they were as successful with coming up with the theories they did. You know, like somebody like Richard Feynman, he came up with basically a template to be able to kind of visualize quantum mechanics, but he never figured it out. And he might have if he would have just said, you know what, there's a force beyond me that I can't comprehend, and I need help. Because there's invisible hands everywhere waiting to help you. They're everywhere waiting to help you. And they love to help. You just have to ask them for help. But whenever you basically say, ugh, that doesn't exist, there is nothing beyond us, it is only us. Well, even if it's only us, all of us together, that is still far beyond us as individuals. So people need to understand that. And once you understand that, you understand that there is a force that is you as well as everybody else, which is everything. That's the way to become as close to that force as you can become. Okay? And the establishments and things like that have gotten to be way too strong. That's gotten to be an issue. You know, people need to go back to their center and realize that we are all connected. And there is something beyond all of us that we cannot comprehend. And the world will become so much more of a better place. You know? You don't have to be religious to understand that. You don't have to go to church and have someone basically interpret their ideals of, you know, God's poetry to us and basically distort it into ideals of perversion and just to teach intolerance and hatred. No. We're here to play. We're here to have fun. We're here to love one another, to have compassion for one another. You know? That's why we're here. To care about one another and to create. Okay? because you still always have free will. But if you ever need it, those invisible hands are always there to help you. You know, that's what's beautiful about it. Okay, so that's accounting for this stuff. Now, let me explain the gratis's of space. Okay? So like I said before, the fundamental material, which I believe is the force beyond us, or if you may say, God, how they're connected with the toruses. Okay? So, if you want to look at it linearly, the photons, okay, this is the string, okay? This is basically the electromagnetic spectrum going backwards, okay? It's a series of spheres getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, okay? Which is an infinite torus, okay? So if you want to look at it like this way, it could be like this. Which, does that look similar to anything that you've ever seen before? Looks like an atom, right? Well, that is how the toruses are infinitely connected, okay? Alright, so let me draw that in a four-dimensional way for you so you can understand it real quick, okay? I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so this is basically a way of looking at it multidimensionally, okay? So it looks like steps, okay? Going up, right? Kind of like an infinite stairway going in, okay? As well as coming out. Well, that's basically what it is. That's what existence is. Everything is infinite, okay? Everything is infinite. We don't live in 3 dimensions. We live in infinite dimensions, okay? Everything is infinite, okay? Photons, the toruses, the gratises, okay? The gratises are basically like the steps. Photon, 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 photon. It's kind of like walking up the steps of existence, okay? And that's all this is showing in a multi-dimensional view. So, let me get into dark matter and dark energy. Okay. So, this is a couple magnets, okay, that are basically attracting one another, okay? And they have smaller magnets on the outside of them, okay? Now, you can think of this as kind of like the sun, you know, or like even like the planets and their moons on the outside of them, okay? So whenever you try to push them together, the outside planets or moons, whatever you think of them, repel one another, okay? And that's basically kind of like the string, how it works, you know, because the way that I'm making these inner magnets move is kind of like in a figure 8, okay? And that's how it's all connected, okay? Those are the toruses, okay? Now, dark matter and dark energy. Those are pretty easily explained with the use of magnets. And that's how I basically put all this stuff together, is that it wasn't a job for me. It was play. I was playing putting all this stuff together, and that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to play. We're not meant to work and be stressed out, So basically, dark matter is how these are basically attracting each other right now, okay? Basically pulling each other together. Now, whenever you twist them, they repel one another, okay? That's dark energy, okay? Now, with fidget spinners, this will come into play later on, but whenever you put two fidget spinners close to one another, you'll find that once they get close enough, they attract, okay? And that's basically how all of existence works. But let me get my place, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, one more thing I wanted to show you, okay? So, right here, this is a little toy. Now, the magnet on the inside is basically a levitating magnet, okay? So, you can consider this kind of like the moon, and this is like the Earth's core, okay? So you basically have the moon going around it and pulling on it, okay? So with the Earth, that's why the Earth's core is very hot, okay? Because it's being pushed on and pulled on by the sun as well as the moon, okay? And the sun is incredibly hot because it's being pulled on and pushed on by all the planets as well as the black hole, okay? So it's being pushed and pulled in every which direction. It's incredibly hot, okay, with all that pushing and pulling on it, okay? Now, let me find my place again. I'll be back. Okay, now, this is what we call a tritorus, okay? Remember what I was saying, everything is connected in toruses, the torus, ditorus, tritorus, okay? So everything just keeps on connecting, 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 connecting until that force decides, which we call the Higgs, bam, that's enough, okay? And that's basically how everything exists, okay? So, let me get into explaining the hydrogen atom, okay? So, the hydrogen atom has 7 isotopes, okay? And you'll notice a lot in religious texts, there's a lot of the number 7, okay? That's basically the hydrogen atom, okay? That's all it is the hydrogen atom. So, a torus on the 7th level is called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's called an eptatorus, okay? But the hydrogen atom is actually connected like an octotorus, okay? Because you have to account for the photon, which is the genesis of everything, connecting to everything out, okay? So, it's basically a photon with 7 other toruses around it, okay? An octotorus, okay? And from there, we'll be able to trace out how elementary particles work through the octotorus, okay? So let me get organized and I'll explain how that works in 1 second, okay? Okay, sorry guys. I made a mistake telling you guys it was an octotorus. It's actually an Enneatorus, which is basically 9 toruses connected, okay? So this is looking at it from kind of like an atomic perspective, okay, how all the toruses are connected, okay? So between every torus, it's shooting out more photons, okay? So basically, it's shooting out photons going this way, and it's shooting out photons going this way, okay? And they're both getting bigger, getting smaller each direction, okay? So you start out with the center, which is the up, charm, and top, okay? Those are shooting out, okay, and they don't necessarily go in this order, okay? They can change for every gratis, you know, which is, you know, step in Latin, which how the toruses connect. But they're all shooting out photons, which can be considered gluons, which are magnetic waves, pushing everything out. W plus bosons, which can be considered, all these can change in every gratis, okay? But they're considered, for our gratis, we can consider W plus bosons light, W negative bosons dark, Z0 bosons gravity, gluons magnetic waves, and you also can consider W plus bosons heat, W negative bosons cold, okay? So you have in the very center you have the photon, which is infinite. It's beyond infinite. It's getting infinitely larger and infinitely smaller, okay? And like I said, it's doing this. It's shooting out photons every which direction, going in, going out, okay? So you have the up quark, charm quark, top quark, and that's basically, you have the photon, and then you have those, which are basically the proton, okay? And for each of these levels, you have both basically particles and antiparticles, as well as neutron particles, okay? So you have the up, charm, and top quarks. In the next gratis, you have the anti-up, anti-charm, anti-top quarks, okay? Then you have the electron, muon, tau. And then you have the positron, anti-muon, anti-tau. Then you have the down quark, strange quark, bottom quark. Then you have the anti-bottom, anti-strange, anti-down. And then you have the electron neutrino, muon neutrino, and one of these I got messed up. Oh, electron neutrino, muon neutrino, and tau neutrino. Okay? And then above that, you have the tau antineutrino, electron antineutrino, and the muon antineutrino. Okay? And that's basically explaining how the hydrogen atom is completely connected. Okay? And like I said, between each gratis, they're all shooting out photons, antiphotons, and neutron photons, which are particles, antiparticles, and neutron particles, okay? That are what's in between, okay? So let's apply this to our actual solar system, okay? So you basically have the photon, which is in the middle, which is like the sun. Outside of that, you have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, okay? And there's particles, there's antiparticles, and there's neutron particles all between. So the neutron particles are like the planets, moons, and asteroids, which are neutral. They both have positive and negative compositions within them that are basically making them neutral because they're equal, okay? And then you have particles, which is like the sun, the proton in the middle of the solar system. And then you have the antiparticles, which is the black hole, which is space. That's all space is, okay? Because the way that it works is if you account for, if you go back to that Tri-torus that I showed you a while ago, everything is basically rotating every which direction, okay? Spinning every which direction. Photons going, shooting, photons getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, shooting out smaller photons which are getting infinitely larger and infinitely smaller. Okay? It's all beyond infinite. You're beyond infinite. Okay? So let's delve down the rabbit hole now. Okay? So this is what's going to kind of throw you for a loop. Okay? So if you account for Planck's quantum theory and Einstein's theory of relativity, you'll find that everything is getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger. Okay? So, like I said before, going back to the infinite torus and applying that to our existence, you are here. This is existence. Okay? So, you're receiving information from other people, other forms of communication. Okay? That more or less is making your mind grow. Okay? As well as you can absorb everything from the universe that you're seeing. And the universe is infinitely expanding. Okay? As well as getting infinitely smaller. So this is you. This is the universe. Okay? You're the center of your own existence. Okay? You are simply a photon that is shooting out infinite photons and pulling in infinite photons. Okay? You're the center of your universe. So whenever you're looking out into space, you're actually looking into yourself. Okay? And I know that's really trippy to think about, but this is existence. I'm explaining how existence works, and it's trippy. Okay? But it's cool because protons, electrons, and neutrons are actually stars, planets, moons, asteroids, and black holes. okay? They're the same thing, okay? You are the universe. You are the light. Do you understand that? Do you get that? I am a universe. You are universes. We are the multiverse. And all of us together with this nature and everything like that make up existence. Okay? It's incredibly deep, but it's incredibly beautiful. Okay? So let's delve back into nature and how exactly it's all interconnected and how the string is completely universal. Okay? 1 second. Okay, like I said before, the string is getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger. Okay? So, with that, everything kind of starts to spin. Okay? And the more hydrogen atoms that are added on, the larger the string gets to be. Okay? And the smaller the string gets to be. Okay? Which, after a while, all of it connecting in string form makes what? DNA. Okay? That's what DNA is the string. Okay? The string is getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger. Okay? So the way you can think of DNA is, that's the string getting infinitely smaller within your mind. Okay? And the more string that you absorb, reading, communicating, all that thing like that, all that thing, those things like that, the more string you absorb. Okay? And more or less the larger you become, the more powerful you become. Like they say, knowledge is power. Okay? So, let's delve into a little bit of nature. Okay, so a while ago I didn't explain very well gravitons. Okay? So, magnetic and gravitational waves are on separate sides of the electromagnetic spectrum, okay? But if you account for everything spinning and going every which direction and coming together, they're the same thing, okay? So with the elementary particles, they have half spin, half spin, half spin, half spin. All those put together are two spins, which make for the gravitons. That's what gravitons are, okay? And all the elementary particles, they're each spinning half a spin each way, but at the same time, they're also a third of a charge. So they're also spinning this way, a third of a way each way, okay? So half, and then 3. Okay, so they're spinning every which direction, okay? So that's basically kind of explaining elementary particles and the gravitons and how those work exactly. Okay, so like I said, let's get into nature. So they have certain ways that they draw molecules right now. So I'll draw the propene molecule the way that ideally should be drawn. Okay, so it's basically 3 carbon atoms and let me look it up real quick. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's basically 3 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. Okay, so the way that really should be drawn is just 6 hydrogen atoms, okay? Because hydrogen is the building block of everything, okay? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay? So that's basically propene right there. Okay? Basically everything that exists is the way that it manifests into existence is like a flower. Everything is a blooming flower of infinite photons. Okay? That's how you're seeing this stuff. Okay? You can see other photons. Your photons. You're also antiphotons. It's also antiphotons. But you can't see the antiphotons. You can only see the photons. That's why we have distance between us. That's why everything is not just completely white. That's why the colors of the rainbow exist. That's all we live in is the yin and yang. Okay, we live in the space between the yin and yang. Okay, this is black. This is white. We live in the rainbow that separates the yin and yang. Okay, it's a very beautiful thing. Okay, so now let's delve into how the string works with stars, plants, stones, life, everything. Okay, so this is a basic representation of the color wheel. Okay, you have Roy G. Biv. Okay, so if you follow nature and the evolution of nature, you'll basically find that everything, okay, so everything begins pretty much dealing with humans. No, I think humans it actually goes reverse. But okay, so it follows the color wheel, okay, the string, and it either goes one direction or the other direction. Okay, so if you follow the evolution of plants, you start at red algae and you go to green for Europhytes, and you go to Cochlocatus, which is green again, stoneworts, which is green again, liverworts, which is all colors, hornworts, which is green again, mosses, which is all, lycophytes, which is green, whiskferns, horsetails. But anyway, you understand the point. If you follow the pattern, it goes all the way up until you go from white going into red, all the way back, all the way out to black. Okay, which the anthophytes, which is the current cycle of evolution we're in with plants, is where it's at. It's following everything. Okay. Now, if you want to account for stars, it's basically doing the exact same thing. Starts at white dwarfs, makes its way all the way out, following the exact same pattern to black holes. Okay? Follows the same pattern. Okay? You have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Follows the exact same pattern whenever you're following stars. Okay? But human beings opposite. Black being in the middle, white being on the outside. Okay? So it goes the exact opposite direction. And that's the pattern that stars follow. Okay? Leading back in to white, yellow, brown, and black dwarfs, which are what? The pigments of skin. Okay? You understand that? That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying you look out to the universe, you're looking into yourself. It's the infinite torus. Okay? You are the light. Everything we see in this planet, and the stars and everything, is the rainbow. Beyond that is the dark, the yin and the yang. Okay? But everything follows basically the same pattern. Okay? But the thing that's beautiful about it is everything is beyond infinite. Okay? Now, let me make sure that I've covered everything. Okay, so you might say, well, Stephen, whenever we look at other galaxies, how come they look like they're flat? That doesn't really make sense to me. Well, the thing about it is whenever you look at galaxies, you're actually looking at photons. Okay? That's all you're looking at is photons. You're looking at photons, antiphotons, and neutron photons. Particles, antiparticles, and neutron particles. Okay? So, most of the galaxy is a black hole. Okay? Basically, it's just the stars, planets, moons, asteroids, and black holes continuously orbiting one another. Okay? So that's all that we can see really are the photons. Okay? And if you account for what I was showing you all ago with the torus and the dark matter and dark energy, you'll see that everything moving in a torus, it's going to look like it's flat. Okay? I know that's kind of hard to explain, but it's just the torus. It's just, here's you, here's everything else. Okay? Everything moving out in a torus. Okay? Which is really hard for me to show you, but that's basically the best that I can do. Okay? So alpha and omega. Okay? So alpha is basically the cosmological constant. Okay? So whenever we're looking at light coming from the sun, it's basically the photons getting infinitely smaller. Okay? So they're getting infinitely smaller, 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 smaller. They're going faster, 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 until they're absorbed into us, which is beyond infinity. Okay? That's basically the cosmological constant. Okay? So if you account for the light, because as the light comes towards us, it gets infinitely faster, okay, until we absorb it, okay? So that's why it looks like to us that everything is expanding at an accelerated rate, because it more or less is expanding at an accelerated rate, but it's also contracting at an accelerated rate. And that's the cosmological constant. Okay? Basically, omega, so This could be considered alpha, everything within. And omega, the Higgs, is the horizon. Okay? We are the alpha. The Higgs is the omega. Okay? Do you understand that? All this stuff is intertwined. Religion, spirituality, science, mathematics, it's all intertwined. It all comes together with the string. Okay? It's all one. And the point of this life is to create and to understand we are a part of a force that is both us and beyond us. And it's always there to ask us for help when we need it. Okay? Even comparing the different religious perspectives. So you have Judaism, which is the one. The photon, which is both infinitely small, infinitely large. One photon as well as infinite photons that's shooting out. Okay? Then you have Islam, Christianity, which believe in the Trinity, which could be compared to proton, neutron, and electron. Proton being the Holy Spirit, the Son, the Mother, the neutron being the Sun, which is the Earth, and the electron being the Father, which is the black hole. Okay? They all are intertwined. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all women are the Holy Spirit, all men are the Father, and all children are the sons. No, they can be intermixed. Okay? They can all be intermixed. You know, you can have a narcissistic mother, which could be compared to the electron and black hole, and a graceful father, which could be compared to the Holy Spirit and the proton, and the Sun, which is the neutron. Okay? They can all be intermixed. They don't all have to meet up. You also have the 7 chakras of Hinduism. You have the yin and yang of Buddhism. The thing about it is, the religious texts are just the poetry of God. They're metaphorical, okay? They're not necessarily meant to be taken literally. And the thing that's wrong with the establishment is that you have an individual that basically decides what their interpretations are of that poetry. And they use it and pervert it and distort it to teach people intolerance and hatred, whenever it's meant to teach love, compassion, and tolerance. That's what it's there for. And the science, teaching the science of this stuff is easy. The compassion is what's difficult. Showing love for everything and becoming the infinite conduit of love, teaching people how to do that and to forgive and forget, that's what's difficult. Okay? But for me, showing you guys this and we being able to learn that we're infinite and basically wiping the slate clean, that's the beauty of it. Now we can use this information to create technologies where we can seek out new places and new civilizations and boldly go where no man has gone before. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. So I think I've pretty much covered about everything. I think that's about it. So I would appreciate it very much if you can contribute to my GoFundMe page, Magnitis Toys, MAGNITIS Toys. Has a picture of a little Shih Tzu dog on it. Very cute. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the string. That's it in a nutshell. Okay? Yeah, but I would appreciate it if you would contribute, and I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. Okay, I forgot something real quick. So, basically, like I was saying before, you have the torus, okay? So think of this as the sun, okay? And all the sun is, okay, so the table of elements now, we don't have to deal with the atomic level anymore. We can move them down to the photonic level now, okay? So all the sun is a mercury photon, okay? That's why the corona of the sun, I'm postulating this, but that's why the corona of the sun is hotter than the surface of the sun, because the surface of the sun is basically burning gold. Okay, just like the Revelations in the Bible says, the streets of heaven will be paved in transparent gold, like transparent glass, you know. The surface of the sun is basically burning gold, and the atmosphere of the sun is basically evaporated mercury. And if you look at the color wheel, you'll see on the opposite side of the spectrum of what gold is grayish indigo. Okay? So if you look at negative pictures of the sun online, you'll see they're grayish indigo. And that's basically showing you that the surface of the sun is burning gold. It's a beautiful thing, you know? And a lot of the revelations in the Bible, I'm basically telling you revelations right now, is basically they're just talking about the stars, how we are basically the stars and the colors of the stars, you know, with the hydrogen atom, which is, you know, number, 7 isotopes. So, but anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so whenever you account for like the fidget spinners, okay, that are spinning, that you put them close together, they attract. Well, that's all the photons in the sun are doing, is they're attracting. And the Higgs, which basically is the force, God, if you may, is what decides when they stop attracting. And boom, that's whenever they start repelling one another from each other. That's whenever they start repelling one another. Okay? So, like I was saying earlier, magnetic waves and gravity waves are basically the same thing. Okay? And the only difference between within the horizon and outside of the horizon is, within the horizon, the photons are attracting each other infinitely. Outside, they're basically repelling each other infinitely. Okay? But they're shooting every which direction. Okay? So, that's pretty much that. So, thank you for your time. I think that pretty much explains everything.